So our 10:30 a.m. item, consideration of an oppose unless amended position letter on SB 964, Seyarto. Mr. Sullivan.
Good morning, Board. Patrick Sullivan, Treasurer Tax Collector. So SB 964 is legislation that's currently proposed. It's been amended multiple times, and with each amendment, it's sort of expanded the scope of its impact on tax sales. What's unfortunate is, partially due to the nature of our situation in Lake County, the changes proposed by this legislation would disproportionately impact us. One of the first points raised now are excess proceeds. If you recall, just a few weeks ago, my office came in front of your board to request permission to distribute those proceeds. We go through an extensive process here to identify potential claimants, contact them. There's various procedures and protocols involved in them making their claims. But at the end of it, funds that are unclaimed do go into the county general fund. We do have the ability to recover those funds. We also have the ability to recover certain costs associated with maintaining the delinquent roll and the tax sale itself. This legislation, as it currently stands, threatens both of those. It is proposing to strike the section that allows those remaining proceeds to go to the county general fund. They would instead go in as unclaimed funds to the state for the state to use with their budget. It also limits the ability of us to cost recover. And I don't have a full understanding of which areas we'd no longer be able to recover from. That's something that we're currently looking into. But it certainly would restrict our ability to recover those funds. Perhaps the larger issue for us, though, which is not strictly monetary, is that this legislation would require that we do a Chapter 7 tax sale first on any property before it goes to a Chapter 8 sale. So again, Chapter 7 is the auction. Chapter 8 is an agreement sale where the county is either taking the property itself or it's being sold to another eligible agency, district, or nonprofit for certain qualified uses and criteria. By requiring a Chapter 7 sale first, this could really create a lot of complications for us. I think, as we're all aware, we have the paper subdivisions and other lots throughout the county that just are not attractive on their own to buyers. And we also have the issue that buyers who purchase them often are unaware that the property they're purchasing may not really be usable, buildable, developable in any way. And the tendency in the past has been that someone would purchase those properties. Often there are firms that will purchase them and then flip them in a private sale to a new buyer who does not understand what they've purchased. And then they ultimately go delinquent again, and this cycle just repeats. So often one of our best options is to be able to sell to an agency. For instance, we just did a sale with the city of Clear Lake, who is a buyer that is capable and competent, able to develop these properties, able to do things with them that a private party would not be able to do. We would lose that ability unless we spend significant staff time and expense to do these Chapter 7 sales first. So I guess just to highlight what's also not in the memo, the intent behind this legislation, I believe, is to account for the Supreme Court case Tyler v. Hennepin. The Howard Jarvis Taxpayers Association is the sponsor of this bill, and they were one of the proponents behind that case and the other cases like it going on around the country. And I think their fear is that there's a very small set of Chapter 8 sales, and we have not done this here in Lake County, but the allegation is that there are agencies and counties in the state that have taken a property, let's say it is someone's home, and sold it at a deep discount, far below market value, deprive the owner of that equity as the government takes it themselves. We have not engaged in that practice here. I understand that is a completely valid concern, but this legislation is quite sweeping now. And if that was the original intent, it is expanded far beyond that purpose. So at this point, Matthew Rothstein from the CIO's office and myself worked together to help draft this letter. I'm happy to take any questions or comments. If there are suggested revisions or anything else, I'm available.
Thank you very much for presenting this item to us. Are there any questions or comments? Supervisor Green?
Just appreciate it, appreciate the information, all this background coming with the support letter, but I'm seeing in the companion letter from the state organization, the opposed unless amended, that letter actually puts forth some proposed amendments. So in our local iteration of the support letter, if we're actually going to take the opposed unless amended, should we also cite to the exact things we hate about it? Are we going to propose separate amendments within our letter as well, or?
So I believe our letter, the county's letter as proposed now, is referencing that letter from the California Association of County Treasurers and Tax Collectors, which is an organization I'm a part of. So we have referenced their letter. That's why it is included with the board packet. And are you suggesting that we incorporate their letter directly into this?
No, I see, now that I see it at the bottom of page 2, you do cite that by reference, but I guess if you were planning to attach that with your letter as well, just so the author of the bill, I'm sure they already have notice of the proposed amendments, but okay, thank you for answering the question. You're on point here.
Anything else? So I know I spoke with Mr. Sullivan yesterday. There is one portion of this letter that bothers me a little bit. It's under the excess proceeds paragraph. Right about in the middle, it reads, "These revenues are relied on to provide essential services, and any threat to general fund revenues would meaningfully affect service delivery." And I feel like that's playing right into the fears of the author of this bill, that we are potentially, and I know we're not, but it kind of reads that we're utilizing the tax sale to bolster our general fund. And that's not what we do. It just happens to be the excess proceeds because nobody has requested to have access to what is rightfully theirs because they're a party of interest. And therefore, what's left over, just like I think last week when we did the excess proceeds, we had between $200,000 and $400,000, I forget off the top of the head exactly the amount, but that was not claimed and therefore went into our general funds. Those are not things that we count on. Those are just things that occur at the end of a tax sale, again, when parties of interest have not taken all the potential excess proceeds. And so I don't feel like that is a good comment to make because I really feel it plays right into the hands of those that fear that tax sales are utilized for wrongful things. And so I would like to suggest a change of that wording to say these proceeds should be reinvested into our communities through local decision-making processes, providing these proceeds to the state may not result in reinvestment of our communities. Because this is local funds that need to be placed back into local needs. If we give it to the state, I don't even know that we're going to get any of that money back, and I don't feel that we should be providing money to a coffer that eventually goes to more urban areas where there may be a greater voice to request those funds, or we're going to lose some off the top because they're going to pay us administrative fees and so on and so forth. But I think mentioning that it helps to bolster our general funds is not a comment that I think we should mention to this author. And wanted to hear from Mr. Sullivan and, of course, hear from the board on that comment.
I understand your concern, and that certainly was not our intent to have it read that way. So the fact that someone may read it that way is not something we want. And yes, that may accidentally lend some undue support to the author's concern. I think the language you propose makes sense. We could also just strike that sentence if that's appropriate, and that may work as well. But I think either option would be fine. And I agree, in light of the fact that could be misinterpreted, I think it's wise to, at a minimum, remove it.
And I'm okay if the line just disappears as well as an option. Vice Chair Crandall.
Yeah, I'm good with striking it. I think that anyone's going to read into anything that's written no matter what. So striking it, I think, serves a good purpose.
I agree.
I agree with the striking of it.
Okay. If there's no further comments, I'll open it up for the public. Any comments? Anyone wish to speak on this item? I see none in the chamber and no hands raised in the Zoom room, so I'll bring it back for action for the board.
Further, Chair, I move to approve the opposed unless amended position letter as amended on Senate Bill 964, Seyarto, and authorize the chair to sign.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you, Mr. Sullivan.
Thank you.